Hey friends, Gary here. A little bit different, I'm not in my studio, but today I want to talk about Micro Four Thirds versus APS-C camera. So people always compare Micro Four Thirds with full frame camera, but obviously full frame has a much bigger sensor compared to Micro Four Thirds. Now when it comes to Micro Four Thirds versus APS-C, the sensor size difference is much closer, and I happen to have both of these cameras, Micro Four Thirds and APS-C. So is APS-C really better than Micro Four Thirds? Is Micro Four Thirds still relevant right now? To set your expectation, this video isn't about technical comparison, scientific tests, that sort of stuff. No, we already know with the same technology, the bigger sensor always wins. So APS-C will produce better image quality compared to Micro Four Thirds. Let's get past that. Today I wanna explore from the point of view of real-world usage when I'm out in the field taking pictures, spending some time with my cameras. So I wanna share my experience regarding Micro Four Thirds versus APS-C with you today. First, let's talk about size and weight. We used to believe that with a smaller sensor size of the Micro Four Thirds camera, the cameras will definitely be smaller. Unfortunately, that is no longer true. Over here, I have an APS-C camera. This is my Sony ZV-E10. Again, an APS-C camera. This guy GX85 is a Micro Four Thirds camera. As you can see, the ZV-E10 is a little bit smaller when compared to the GX85, and also it is lighter. So smaller sensor size doesn't always translate to smaller camera size. To add more insult to the injury for me as a Micro Four Thirds fan, the ZV-E10 actually has some features that the GX85 doesn't have. For example, microphone port, and then fully articulating screen, and then better handling with the bigger front grip right here. Yeah, granted the ZV-E10 doesn't have in-body stabilizer or EVF like the GX85, but still you have to acknowledge that this camera is smaller and lighter than the GX85. However, even though Micro Four Thirds cameras aren't always smaller compared to APS-C, I think Micro Four Thirds still has an advantage in terms of size and weight in their lenses, especially for the classical prime lenses like this 14mm f2.5 or the 20mm f1.7. They are quite smaller compared to the APS-C versions. These are first-party options. These are from Panasonic Lumix. These aren't from ultra-budget third-party options. And then also for telephoto options, Micro Four Thirds will usually have smaller lenses. Like this guy right here, my favorite lens ever. This is the Panasonic Lumix 35 to 100mm f4 to f5.6. Yeah, it is so small, it is so lightweight. Or something like this Olympus 45mm f1.8. Very small, very lightweight. Micro Four Thirds lenses still has an advantage in this area. Now let's talk about image quality, and I think this is the one that's confusing most people. So we already expect with APS-C cameras that with the larger sensor you'll get better image quality, and that is true. I'm not going to deny that. You'll have better pictures when you capture it using an APS-C camera, but that is only true if you really pixel peep into every single photos that you capture. But that's not how we view our photos generally. We always see it as it is, either digitally or printed. And sometimes when you view your photos normally without zooming in, without peeping in, then the extra boost in image quality isn't always obvious in my opinion. Now in this video, I'm not going to bore you with scientific test comparisons showing you similar pictures taken using APS-C camera and Micro Four Thirds camera at the same time. No, I'm not going to do that. However, if I see a set of randomly mixed Micro Four Thirds and APS-C pictures together, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I mean, which pictures are taken using Micro Four Thirds, which pictures are taken using APS-C. That's impossible for me. Now, granted, if we're doing some specific scenarios such as product photography or close-up or portrait or things like that, sometimes you can kind of tell that the pictures is taken using APS-C sensor instead of Micro Four Thirds sensor because of some specific characteristics of the APS-C sensor, such as more background blur. But for general everyday photography stuff, for like landscape scenery, travel photography, environmental portrait, that kind of stuff, you cannot really tell. I mean, yeah, if you really pixel peep once again, but if you just view it normally, as I said before, it's hard to tell the difference between Micro Four Thirds and APS-C pictures. Next, let's talk quickly about autofocus, another topic that people usually discuss when comparing APS-C cameras versus Micro Four Thirds cameras. It is generally believed APS-C cameras, especially with the faster development of the cameras and their technologies, they'll have better, faster, more accurate autofocus. Is it true? Well, in my experience, it is only true when you're using continuous autofocus, specifically on my Sony APS-C camera, again, the ZV-E10. I cannot deny that the continuous autofocus of this guy, especially in video with its face detect autofocus, is so much faster compared to my Micro Four Thirds cameras, specifically my Panasonic Lumix cameras, GX85, G85, the older ones that doesn't have face detect autofocus. I'm not going to deny that. However, when it comes to single autofocus, now that's very surprising for me because it turns out that my Panasonic Lumix Micro Four Thirds cameras are quite a bit faster and more accurate when you compare it with my Sony ZV-E10. Next, let's talk about cost, another interesting topic when we are comparing APS-C versus Micro Four Thirds. In the past, Micro Four Thirds was the king of value. It provides more bang for your buck, and with relatively less money, you can get a full kit with capable camera and some lenses that can cover all sorts of photography genres. APS-C is believed to be more expensive because, as you can see on the first party options, the lenses are expensive, the cameras are usually more expensive as well because of the features being implemented into the cameras. But is it still true right now? Now let's talk about cost from two different categories, the camera side of things and the lens side of things. When it comes to camera, if you decide to go into Micro Four Thirds route, the best way to get most value for your money is to select classic older cameras from few years ago. They are still very capable even today. For example, my Panasonic Lumix GX85, this is still offered here in Indonesia where I live for a very reasonable price. And even though sometimes it's difficult to find brand new, the used price is very low. So yeah, this is a great option. But if you decide to go into APS-C side of things, some of the newer cameras, they are actually affordable. Well, still more expensive compared to the older Micro Four Thirds cameras, but this guy right here, the Sony ZV-E10, this is a great value for money. It's a little bit old, but not as old as the GX85, and you get lots of features with this guy. Now, in terms of camera, when it comes to newer Micro Four Thirds cameras, they are quite a bit more expensive compared to the classic older ones. And when it comes to APS-C cameras, you have different tiers of price that you can select from, so you can still get the budget one like the ZV-E10, no problem at all. Now, I also made some discovery when it comes to lenses on how to get the most bang for your buck. When you decide to go into Micro Four Thirds route, I think you can save some money by selecting the older generation lenses, the classical Micro Four Thirds lenses as I call them. For example, this guy right here, 35 to 100mm f4 to f5.6 Panasonic Lumix lens, or something like the Olympus 45mm f1.8, the classical prime lenses, the first generations, the Panasonic Lumix 14 to 140mm f3.5 to f5.6 super zoom, the first generation. It is much cheaper nowadays and it is still very capable. And also maybe something like the Panasonic Lumix 12 to 35mm f2.8 first generation. Also you can save a lot of money by choosing these older lenses. When it comes to lenses for APS-C camera like my Sony ZV-E10, it's a little bit more pricier if you go into the first party option. I think the best way to save money for APS-C cameras is to select third-party budget option such as Sigma, TTArtisan, Filtrox. You'll get interesting lenses, sometimes prime lenses, sometimes zoom lenses with very affordable price and more importantly autofocus capabilities. In the past, we only have manual focus lenses for ultra budget options, but nowadays they come with autofocus and they perform almost as good as the first party one. Last but not least, I want to share how I make the decision between Micro Four Thirds and APS-C, which one is better for me, and hopefully I can help you to make your own decision. So first of all, for me personally, it isn't just about the absolute best image quality. It isn't always about the best performance, the most features, the most technical cameras, that kind of stuff. No, for me, bottom line, sensor size doesn't matter. I repeat, sensor size doesn't matter. So what matters for me? Simple, the enjoyment factor of the camera. Do I have a good time whenever I go out and take pictures with this camera? Does it feel intuitive to use on the field? Does it get in between me and the pictures? Does it hinders me from taking pictures? That kind of stuff. This is the things that I prioritize the most. This is a personal thing. I want my cameras to be fun, not just a tool. I want to actually have a good time when I'm doing photography, because for me, photography is a hobby. It's sort of like an escape from reality. It's my entertainment, so the camera needs to be fun. And when it comes to fun, there's no right and wrong. There's no like APS-C is better than Micro Four Thirds or Micro Four Thirds is better than APS-C. For me personally, I tend to lean more towards Micro Four Thirds because they are very intuitive to use for me. However, the same thing cannot be said to you. You have to make your own discovery. What are your priorities? What do you enjoy the most? Maybe you will select APS-C camera because they are more intuitive for you, or maybe you can choose something completely different. Maybe you enjoy taking pictures with your phone or maybe with some other different kinds of cameras. I don't know, but again, no right or wrong in this case. So what I can suggest to you is that you should try the camera first before you purchase it. Go to your local store, check out the camera, touch it with your hands, try to take some pictures with it. Are the buttons on the right position? Does the camera make sense to use for you? Is it easy enough to change settings? Does it feel nice to hold in your hand? Does it feel tiring when you grip it? Things like that, I think that matters more than just absolute best image quality, because nowadays, let's just be honest, all of these cameras can take great pictures. So things like that matters more, and you should consider these factors. In the end, photography isn't just about getting the absolute best photo. It's also about enjoying the process of taking pictures, being immersed into the process of photography, setting up your camera, feeling all the buttons, changing settings on your cameras, trying to find compositions, trying to be creative, these kind of things. I think it also matters as much, if not more, than the final result. And that wraps up today's video. Hopefully, this comparison between APS-C and Micro Four Thirds has been interesting, informative, fun, and enjoyable, and inspiring for you as well. So please let me know on the comment down below What do you think about Micro Four Thirds versus APS-C? Which one do you choose and why? Let's have a little bit of a chat down below. Also, if you have any question, please comment down below as well. I will try my best to answer them. Also, don't forget to support my channel by liking this video, sharing this video, subscribing to my channel down below. And if you want to support my work even further, consider using the affiliate links on the description below. Use the super thanks button to make a small donation to my channel or purchase my travel photography course book called Simplifying Travel Photography, link also in the description below. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.